Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here. Today we're going to be looking at the new GDI unit, the Grenadier, a very beefy, true anti-vehicle infantry unit from the GDI barracks. The EMP grenades slow movement speed and attack speed of vehicles, and they also have got a very high attack speed, which essentially makes them very, very difficult to take out if you are a anti-infantry vehicle as well, because we'll get onto that. These guys have got a very specialized role compared to the JJTs and the missile troopers. Missile troopers obviously can attack air and vehicles, so they're a bit more versatile. JJTs are a lot more aggressive, have the movement speed, a bit more harvester aggression, they're good for repositioning. The Grenadiers are much more like your beefy tank kind of infantry. You run them in to a situation where you need to take out some vehicles, and they are going to take out a lot of vehicles if they aren't countered quickly. JJTs are quite squishy, and you can deal with them quite rapidly, even with anti-infantry vehicles, but the Grenadiers are a whole different kettle of fish, because they are so tanky and deal so much damage as long as having the EMP grenades. They're actually pretty difficult to take out, even with the most hard counter to infantry that vehicles can throw at them. So these guys are like your true anti-war factory infantry. You know, JJTs and missile troopers can do so much, but they can definitely get countered by war factory units. The Grenadiers pretty much counter everything coming from the war factory. These units single-handedly could stop war factory meta just by being included in lots of decks across the board, and you might see a bit of a shift in terms of snipers being included, or people kind of prioritizing a little bit more in infantry, because obviously they have their weaknesses. They can't shoot air, they are very, very bad versus infantry, but they really do decimate everything from the war factory, especially versus Nod, where their movement speed is so imperative. Grenadiers are very, very good at dealing with Nod quick infantry, because the EMP grenades do slow them down a significant amount. They're actually, like I said, even good versus vehicle units that are supposed to be good versus infantry. The APC would usually dispatch things like JJTs and missile troopers very quickly, but the Grenadiers only lose a single member. And obviously, they are very good versus high attack speed units like the Sandstorm. They really do slow things down there. They actually are incredibly good at dealing with high-level tech units, especially vehicle-based tech units. Just for 60 Tiberium, you pretty much have an all-rounder vehicle counter. But like I said, they do have their weaknesses. It does come through from the shockwave troopers, the riflemen even, and obviously air vehicles like the Talon or the Banshee are going to deal with these guys pretty nicely too. But I genuinely think these guys are very strong. I think we're going to see quite a lot of play if people get them up to a high enough level, because they really do just shut down any kind of vehicle. Like they beat every vehicle. Every single vehicle, including, when we get to it, the Nod Chem Buggy, and I'll show you that in particular, because it is a matchup that usually Nod Chem Buggy is designed to win. Now, obviously, the Mammoth Tank will run these guys over, but what I'm doing is just showing you actually how quickly they can take a Mammoth Tank down compared to almost any other form of infantry. They do a lot of DPS, and again, slowing down the attack speed means that they aren't as easily retaliated against versus tanks, and, you know, like the Mammoth Tank here, which is a beefy unit, it does lose to the Grenadier, because it's got a high attack speed. You don't lose too much when you lose your squads, because you're still getting someone that's attacking quite regularly and keeping that EMP pulse applied. So we're going to have a look at those Nod matchups now. Cyber Wheels, which would, you know, traditionally do okay versus infantry, they get dispatched very quickly, because again, the high attack speed rattles off high DPS versus squad units. So that high attack speed versus squad units is going to make them very good at dealing with Nod squad vehicles like the Cyber Wheels and obviously the attack bikes. I mean, the attack bikes only get one volley off before they are losing their lives at equal levels. And again, because Nod's speed is very imperative, the Scorpion tank's main kind of draw over the Predator is the fact that it's got a higher movement speed and a slightly higher attack speed too. So the EMP grenades kind of shut down part of the joy of the Nod kind of arsenal from the war factory. They even dispatch tick tanks that are locked in. It takes them a while, but they do get there, and don't take much damage in return either. And that just shows you kind of how powerful these particular units are. And because they are so immediate to jump into impact, and they don't have a long reload time like the missile troopers, they're actually almost immediately impactful wherever you place them on the map. I did also want to show you this Chem Buggy matchup. Now, the Chem Buggy traditionally does insane damage versus infantry, but versus the Grenadiers, it loses. It loses to the Grenadiers. They only lose one squad member. Obviously, they are stuck in the Tiberium right now, but you'd eventually move that out. But yeah, it's just insane how good these guys are at dealing with almost every vehicle thrown their way. There are some exceptions, and I'll talk about them once we get there, but almost every other vehicle will get destroyed by the Grenadiers, apart from 2, which is the Widowmaker and the Wolverine. Going to show you some of the counters now and how they fare versus some of their infantry counters like riflemen. I'm just going to show you comparison to the missile squad on the bottom side of the map, just to show you how tanky the Grenadiers are and how long they actually last for. I mean, they last almost double the amount of time versus a rifleman squad than a missile squad does. Although you would expect that, given that they are 3 times the cost of the missile squad. Don't fare as well versus shockwaves. So shockwaves and flames are obviously going to be the direct true counters to these particular guys, as well as the Talon and the Banshee, also able to dispatch them pretty quickly. But they do hold their own versus shockwaves for a little bit longer than missiles, for instance. So they could be like a last-minute pad holder. This is where missiles do have their advantages over the Grenadiers. They will beat a Talon and will often do okay versus a Banshee at even levels. But obviously Grenadiers cannot respond and throw grenades into the air. Although it takes a long time for the Talon to actually get them down, they will eventually go down without being able to respond. So having Talons and Banshees in hand versus Grenadiers is going to be a good idea if Grenadiers become meta. The only vehicles that actually do significantly well versus Grenadiers are the true anti-infantry vehicle units, something like the Disruptors and the Wolverines and the Widowmakers. It's close. I mean, you look at it there, it is very close between the Wolverines and the Grenadiers. It's less close versus the Widowmaker, because the Widowmaker has a continuous stream of flame. But it is still a matchup that, you know, with a little bit of extra help, the Grenadiers can hold their own almost versus a unit that costs a significant amount more than them and is designed to counter infantry directly. So yeah, that is something that you do need to consider. Things like Juggernaut and Disruptor are obviously going to do very well. They're very high-powered anti-infantry units, and I'm just putting the avatar in there to show you that actually a decent amount of damage comes down, but it's obviously something that isn't going to impact the avatar too much. So those are the Grenadiers, and that's a lot of their in-depth matchups. I genuinely do think these guys can kind of shift the War Factory meta just a little bit if they are being included in GDI decks. Obviously no love for Nod. Nod is not going to have the best of times, but if everybody is moving away from War Factory because Grenadiers are being used, then we might see some shifts in the Nod meta too. But these dudes hurt vehicles a lot, and it's very difficult if you're running a very heavy War Factory deck to deal with them. Alright guys, see you soon.